From Jim momentarily. Welcome to the celebration of the life of Jean Marshall Crawford. Jean Marshall Crawford was a special lady who had a special life, knitted together from the emotions, expressions, and experiences of her one-of-a-kind, though altogether too short, life. A life full of passion for the causes she cared about, a life of volunteering to take on tasks large and small for those issues that charged her battery and informed her vision, a vision of a world more just and fair and gentle than the one she was born into, and an abiding loyalty to those people, those friends, who shared her convictions and her vision and who worked side by side with Jean. Sometimes for hours, sometimes for days, sometimes for years, and sometimes for decades. Before I go on, I'd like to extend a special welcome to Jean's family who are here today. I hope I don't miss anyone. Her sister, Cindy, and her husband, Chris, of Chicago. Her lifetime partner, we'll call him Mr. Jerry. From right here in Arlington, we also have some of the nieces and nephews, Oliver and Alex. We have some of Jerry's kids, Susan and Janice, and then the next generation, Sarah, and the next generation, William. I recognize many of Jean's political friends, and including many elected officials and candidates, and after conferring, I am not going to introduce you. Well, but thank you for coming. I also know there are friends from some of Jean's other spheres of interest with us today. ERA activists, animal lovers, knitters, book devourers, kitchen crew, travelers, and high school friends. People from around the world are here. Before we're done, I'm sure we will have touched on each of these aspects of Jean's life. I was honored to be asked to MC and to speak today. I've done a modest amount of research and have collected a few stories to share with you. I expect that most of you here today have stories of your own. So after I finish, there will be an open mic period. And I would strongly encourage any of you that are willing to stand up and share a remembrance, a story, a reflection, to do so. It need not be rehearsed or complete or perfect, but I assure you it will be appreciated. We would love to hear something about how your world intersected with Jean's, or how you experienced Jean. So, I met Jean around 1993 when I first appeared on the Arlington political scene. Jean was a veteran. I was a neophyte candidate. Jean supported me right out of the gate. Lots of time at my house. Democratic politics was a part of Jean's DNA. When I asked one person, what were Jean's demons? There were two: food and Republicans. The Arlington Democratic Committee was Jean's home. She did it all. She was our deputy treasurer, a member of our kitchen crew, and a stalwart precinct captain. She has helped Arlington Democrats win elections for decades. She loved being AC/DC's version of the Walmart greeter. She was the lady who always handed out name tags and greeted everyone who came to the meetings. From her point of view, what's not to like? They're all Democrats. They're new people to meet, which she loved. So she could flash her inviting smile and then begin with her disarming questions. One person told me she used politics as a way to figure out what made people tick. And can't you remember standing by that front desk? She would start by asking, "Now, where are you from?" One friend wrote, and I quote, "Jean made me feel so welcome and part of the Democratic family from the first day I walked into a meeting. My truck proudly wears 2 of her best stickers, which really capture her attitude. First, Democratic Party, : we're not perfect, but they're nuts. And 2, Democratic women are the life of the party." Jean loved President Obama. She wore her Obama pin to every fancy Democratic Party event for years. She raised thousands of dollars for Obama and Democrats by selling campaign t-shirts and bumper stickers at farmers markets and events across the county. For hours on end, she would sit, knit, and raise money for Democrats. As our party chair said, there has almost certainly been no equal to Jean in fundraising while knitting. So now may be a good time to acknowledge Jean's great skills with her hands as a knitter. I may be mixing up my needles here, but wasn't another Arlington Democratic champion, Ellen Bosman, a knitter?
That's true. That's right.
Is it something in the water? One of our AC/DC members, Stephanie, said that with Jean gone, she's feeling the pressure to start bringing her needlework to AC/DC meetings. Another friend told me, and I quote, "Jean and I shared the love of knitting, and there were times when I'd get stuck with a pattern, and she'd always help me out of my mess and had the patience to teach me what I was doing wrong. She made beautiful sweaters and always found beautiful and different yarn." And interesting, that was a little bit of a theme too. Oops, my water. Excuse me. Just getting over a cold. So that thread takes me right to this other thing I've learned about Jean, that she adored vibrant, bright colors. I didn't know that. Probably many of you did. Especially fuchsia. Who knew that? Did anyone know that? Yep, some of you knew that. I also heard that her color fetish impacted her car selection. Okay, some of you know that. How many of you have owned a turquoise car? Okay, Mary Margaret. How about a yellow car? Okay, a few more. How about a pink car? All right. Jean alone owned one of each of these. As for Jean's other passions, I'm told that she devoured books, having read nearly every novel that was ever published. She loved to discuss political books, loved to travel, kept hearing about Paris and London, and loved animals. And you see the kittens up here. She volunteered countless hours at the Animal Welfare League of Arlington, where she had another greeter job at the front desk, and also served as AWLA's president. AWLA, if you hadn't noticed, is the beneficiary of any of those contributions you may have given in Jean's honor. So the intersection, Again, a parent, an AWLA volunteer, said, and I quote, "I volunteered with Jean for many years. The thing I will always associate with Jean is her generosity of spirit. The two things we spoke about were politics and books. And she was always quick to tell me about books she had read that she thought I would enjoy, as well as to share the workings of the Arlington Democrats with me. I remember commenting one day that I needed an Obama bumper sticker." You see how this all comes together? "And when I got home a few days later, there it was waiting for me on the porch." Jean embraced life. So, in all the people I talked to, I would say the most enduring and formative chapter in Jean's life was clearly her time in the leadership of the Virginia campaign to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. It was a tightly knit group of women that dedicated their lives to this cause and became fast friends. As one of the women, who I believe I saw earlier here, Marianne, told me, "They were intense times. It was our war." Jean was the Virginia Now State Coordinator and made history in 1978 when she was unjustly arrested by the Virginia State Capitol Police while lobbying for the amendment. Okay? Here's the story, as it was told to me. Shortly after a painful defeat in a key legislative committee, Marianne was arrested, or as she said, captured. Remember, it was a war. When Jean heard about it, she became incensed. She was inside the building. And witnesses describe her running like a bull, as Jean had never run before or ran again, down the halls of the General Assembly building, out the doors, to protect Marianne. Jean was then arrested. She went limp, face down on the asphalt. I am told that Jean's standard strategy at arrest was to go limp and hope to induce multiple hernias among the captors. After 11 months of trials and court appearances, she was cleared, all charges were dropped, and the arrest expunged from her record. But the story lives on. Many of the core cadre of feminist leaders continued to meet for meals and camaraderie for 30 years at the Rincombe Thai restaurant on Columbia Pike. I would also note, I want to throw this in, that Elise Hines, who represented Arlington in the Virginia House of Delegates for 4 years, and who also recently died, was among this core group of 8 or 10 women leaders. Many of the women who committed themselves to this frustrating battle had a difficult time getting their lives back after the ERA losses in the early 80s. Jean later was an elected member of Now's National Board from 1983 to 1986. Then she was hired by the Commissioner of the Revenue in Arlington, Jerry Whiting, the other Jerry. I did not know that. Jerry. Mr. Jerry and I guess Ms. Jerry. And became Deputy Commissioner of the Revenue to start her long career with Arlington County. So, in sum, Jean had a storied life. By her friends and family, when I asked, the words and phrases most often used to describe her were intelligent, brilliant, devoted, loyal, generous, infectious, lover of people and animals, funny, force for good, and joie de vivre, love of life and joy of living. They told me that her purpose on this planet was to advocate for rights, to affirm people, and to let people know that it's okay to be different. Thank you, Jean Marshall Crawford. Rest in peace.